You can sit right here. We've got Senator Dolezal that's going to serve as ex officio. We got a letter from the Lieutenant Governor's office, so that gives us 7. We have a quorum. We're going to go ahead and start the Economic Development Committee meeting. Senator Burns, if you would, open us up in prayer. Number 3.
Number 3. Good morning. If you'll join me, please. Father God, we're grateful. We're blessed and humbled to serve. Ask that you give us your wisdom and your guidance as we deal with the matters for Georgia. In Christ's name I pray. Amen.
And I want to thank Brandon Malowitz and Matt Campbell for the Chick-fil-A this morning. What do you call that, bringing breakfast? Leadership, sir? Leadership. It's leadership. All right. Well, good morning, everybody, and welcome to Economic Development. We've got a few bills we're going to tackle today. We're going to add HB 360, which is not on the agenda, from the Majority Leader. We'll add that on at the end. Our first bill is going to be from, we're going to move up on Representative Powell, HB 74. He's got to head to another meeting. So if you could, tell us the LC number and tell us a little bit about the bill. Chairman Powell. All right, floor is yours. Let me get you.
The chairman and the committee for hearing this bill this morning. Last year when we passed House Bill 353, that was the cleanup language for the COAM division over at the lottery. This was one of the parts that was in the bill. It's the Administrative Procedures Act. That basically under their COAM division, when they're making rules and regs, they'll be transparent. They'll advertise them so they can be public comment. And then once their rules and regs have been adopted, then they'll be sent over here to the legislature so this committee and the House Regulated Industries can review their rules and regs. It's all about transparency. It's about telling these business owners in the state what are the rules of the game and what they're doing.
Okay. Any questions? Is that all it does?
Well, I'd be remiss if I didn't say that was probably the most popular part of this bill last year. But when it was passed, there had been some changes made, because you remember we raised the taxes. But in the process of that, there was some language put in there that struck the language. So it passed in one sentence. It put them under APA. And then on down into the bill, it took them out of APA. So this is what we need to put them under APA.
Okay. Any questions?
Motion to pass.
All right, we've got a motion due pass. Well, you got a question first? We got a second. Motion due passed. I got a second from Senator McLaurin. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Everybody? Unanimous?
Thank you,
Okay.
Mr. Chairman.
All right, thank you. Senator Eccles, we're going to go to you next. I know you've got a bill. You got a. Oh, hey, Chairman Powell, who's going to carry this bill? Who would you like to carry it?
I think Clint Dixon's going to carry it.
Do you want it to pass?
Okay. Mulberry on it?
Does it? It'll be attached to the city of Mulberry with COAM, but that's okay. I mean, I'm okay with that.
You're gonna fund the city of Mulberry. There you go.
No, we got. I'm just. Hey, no. We'll go with Senator Dixon. I'm just giving you a hard time. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. All right. Yeah, if you would, do you mind, Drew, go up there to the podium and present your bill, because I know you got to get to a House committee to present another bill. So we're going to be working, Senator Eccles, that would be SR 323.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, it's SR 323, LC number 520790.
Okay.
And it's pretty simple and straightforward. It's a Senate resolution to establish a study committee for tourism. I won't go in and read all the whereases, but spoke with Lieutenant Governor and Chief of Staff about it. They seemed pretty happy about it. I had a couple conversations with you about it. It's debatable. A lot of times, clearly agriculture is the #1 industry in the state of Georgia. It's debatable as to whether or not tourism is number 2 or number 3, but it's a big industry. Supporting over 400,000 jobs, and in 2023, there was about $5 billion worth of state and local taxes that come from tourism. So I'd be happy to answer any questions or give you any more statistics. But I think that I don't think we're doing anything wrong in the state of Georgia right now as far as tourism goes, but I think we could, there's a lot of opportunity out there.
Any questions? Number 7, Vice Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Said I noticed in your resolution there, and I was kind of curious, in lines 8 through 11, you're talking about local festivals and stuff. You didn't list the Colbert 4th of July Parade, and I was kind of curious why you didn't list the Colbert 4th of July Parade.
There's so many parades on the 4th of July, it would have been about an 80-page resolution.
I thought that would be the one that you would put in there.
I'm sorry.
Just having fun.
Okay. Any questions? Let me tell you what, he came to me on this study committee, and, we do a lot of study committees, but I will tell you, tourism's important to this state, and I think we've got some opportunities to grow tourism. I know we're looking at the entertainment industry. It's amazing how many people want to go see where a movie is filmed or go sit on the bench where Tom Hanks sat on or whatnot. But that's an industry we can look at growing tourism. Obviously, we've got the World Cup coming. We've got championship games coming. We've got all kind of sporting events. But tourism is big, and with an airport where you can fly direct to 75% of the population in 2 hours direct, we should be having people coming here. The other area I want to look on tourism, and I've talked to Chairman Dolezal about this, I really think we could look at medical tourism. There's no reason people should not be flying here to get medical care and staying in hotels and eating at our restaurants. We've got some of the best health care in the world, and we don't market it like we should, and I want us to look at that in this committee because you hear about people going to Houston to go to MD Anderson. Well, we have some great cancer treatments here too, and we should be capitalizing on that. So I want to look at that in your committee too. So thank you for bringing
Yes,
this,
sir.
and I think it's going to do great things. Yes.
Just like to give you a motion.
Okay. All right.
Mr. Chairman, particularly because tourism means what it means to my district, I move do pass.
All right. We got a motion due passed. I got a second. Yes.
Line 13, they put Georgia.
That's on. All right. Any discussion? All in favor, raise your hand. Well, I don't vote. That's right. Okay, it's unanimous.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
All right, here's what we're going to do, and we're going to just do a hearing on both HB 233 and HB 14. I was out yesterday, but there's some talk about you guys combining your bill, and I didn't want to do anything without talking to the two sponsors of the bill, and I was out sick yesterday. But I want to give y'all a hearing today. We will get it out definitely next Wednesday. And if we're going to use this as a vehicle to maybe help some music bill or something, I kind of got caught off guard on that. But so let me go to HB 233, Representative Townsend, if you'd talk a little bit about Brunswick Stew, and we'll vote on this next Wednesday, okay?
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate that. 233 LC 394510. Basically, it says Brunswick Stew will be the official state stew of Georgia. There's a long storied history about Brunswick Stew starting down in Brunswick, Georgia, our home, of course. We have it's economic and historical importance to Brunswick as well. So we have some a good festival. You guys were talking about festivals earlier. We have one down there called the Brunswick Stew Bouillie as well, dedicated to this. It's a great time, great stew, and at the proper time next Wednesday, I hope this thing gets out, and we'll partner with Cornbread over there.
And I know it's important to Senator Hodges. He has spoken to me about this.
Yes, sir.
Again, I'd pass this today or take a motion on it if I didn't have this other thing, and I just want to hold off. We're going to
I
get to it.
totally understand. And eventually, Senator Hodges will be carrying the bill.
Okay. Yes.
A question, I appreciate your bill, and I love Brunswick stew, but can you differentiate between Brunswick stew and hash?
It's not even
I want you to
close.
tell me the difference.
It's not even close. I believe we've got a time limit today, so I would hate to get too long-winded.
And then do you have the quintessential recipe for Brunswick stew?
We do, and actually, if I can get this through rules and talk to Chairman Brass, we can actually, I've got the sheriff committed and the stew master down there, Ron Adams, bringing Brunswick stew to the Capitol.
All right, now,
But we got to do it before Sonny die.
one final question. Does it include corn?
It depends who you ask. Chairman England and I had a discussion a few weeks ago, and luckily he still supports this. At first we got a little testy because I said, you start making Brunswick stew north of that line, is it really Brunswick stew? But we agreed and we're on the same page.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, thank you. All right, let's hear a little bit about cornbread from Representative Carpenter, and we're going to hold this one too. And I want to meet with you two guys later in the week to talk about what we're going to do here.
Yeah, absolutely. That'd be perfectly fine. House Bill 14, state bread as cornbread. We brought this to you guys last year. It got tied up with some other language on a music bill, so it set in rules and didn't get out from the Senate. But basically, just makes the state bread cornbread. Obviously, with the Native American history of Georgia and teaching the settlers how to make cornbread and then moving on into Southern cuisine. Cornbread's been around the state of Georgia for an extremely long time, so I thought it was important to make it our state bread.
Okay, thank you.
Yep, appreciate it.
Yes, you got a question?
I love cornbread. Does it include crackling?
Yep, I think you can put
So
crackling, corn, jalapenos.
Qualify as cornbread, crackling?
In the cornbread,
In the
maybe.
cornbread.
Yeah, how about that? So, yeah, there's, this is open-ended.
sure
You
we
can
don't-
make it how you like it.
All right,
baby.
thank you. Great
Appreciate
job.
you.
Thank
Yep.
you, thank you, thank you. Okay, we're going to go to the majority leader now because I know you're pressed for time, and we did add 360. We just laid this out on your desk. Tell us a little bit about House Bill 360 and the LC number.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I want to thank the chairman and the committee for hearing this today. It's LC 501163S. This is House Bill 360 as passed out of the House. So for historic tax credits, those applications that are already in line currently, so for 2027, 2028, 2029, they're already in the queue. This bill would allow in Atlanta, downtown Atlanta specifically, them to go ahead and claim those tax credits if they have a certificate of occupancy by 2026. Now, give you a little bit of the backstory. We have had investors that have been investing into downtown Atlanta, acknowledging the major sporting events, major events that the chairman just referenced, talked about, coming very soon here at our capital city. Specifically, investors who created the Atlanta Tech Village have a very tech-focused, have now worked on the co-working type environment spaces as well as residential and commercial development opportunities for downtown Atlanta. These historic tax credits are critical for preservation of historic buildings, renovation of those buildings, and making them available that will really transform the downtown Atlanta area. Now, this does not increase the cap. I want to be very emphatic. It does not increase the cap on the historic tax credits. All it does is allow those who are set to receive them in the coming years to be able to utilize those if they have their projects completed by 2026. And I'll just, to tie this down, it's beginning line 20 to 24. What we did in working with Legislative Council, it's within a 10-mile radius of the Cabbagetown Historic District. Just to make clear, it's only for the downtown Atlanta area. That was the most effective way to tie this down for here. I would just say the Department of Revenue has been a great partner working with them. I'm not aware of any objections or issues with the bill, and I'd appreciate the committee's favorable consideration.
Well, Mr. Leader, I want to tell you, I met with those two gentlemen that are redeveloping that whole area, Birdsong and David Cummings.
Yes, sir.
And what they're tackling is a major project, and that area needs rehabilitation, if you will. It's been blighted for a long time. I think it's got a lot of potential, but they're taking a lot of risk. And so I applaud you for what you're doing here.
Thank you, Chairman.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. One of the things I guess we want to start looking at getting tax credits ahead of the years that they happen. So in 2026, they'll be eligible if they got a CO to take advantage of a few future years' tax credits. I think about if the house burnt down, said they wouldn't have a tax liability except for the property that was there after 2026, but they're taking that credit in advance. Is there any downside? I'm looking at it and thinking, okay, tell me, in a nutshell how that works, because I do kind of question, you're giving somebody a tax credit for something that is you hope to be still there at the end of the 2029 period, or I think that was the last year. Give me that math.
Yes, sir. Well, I'll attempt to answer the question by just telling you my thinking about this. First of all, the potential revenue that could be gained from this redevelopment is considerable, and while many members, I think here, are open to considering increasing the cap, that was not something that I wanted to include in this legislation. I wanted to make clear that if you were already in line, that you could go ahead and utilize that if the certificate of occupancy is issued by 26. As I see it, the state has already made this commitment that we have this credits out there, and if you are already in the queue, there is not a problem to utilize them sooner. I think that as far as the math goes, I could maybe turn it over to another witness who's in here today about how that would work out. But, my view is that the projects could move forward. You're going to have significant spending around those projects. You're going to have considerable investment. You're going to have, obviously insurance for the projects. If things were to take a turn, my view is that the original intent is really still being met because we're not increasing the state's obligation for those future years by passing 360.
And the tax you're talking about is ad valorem tax on those properties?
That's correct. Yes, sir.
And the state doesn't collect a dime in ad valorem taxes anywhere. And so I'm kind of curious why this would be something the state legislature should pick up and not be done through maybe their development authority or something along those lines. Why is the state involved in this situation when we're not the recipient of any of those taxes?
So if it's all right, Senator, I'll get back to you on the specifics of this. But what I would just say is the historic tax credits have shown success for certain development projects. This policy determination was already made by the General Assembly previously. We already have these out there. And so all I'm requesting that the committee consider today is just allowing folks who are in line to be able to utilize them in time for these major sporting events. And I believe this is responsive to the question. The urgency is because of this. The World Cup, as it's been presented to me, the precursor games will each have the economic development impact of a World Series game, and there will be multiple of them. In addition to that, we will have 2 of the next round. I'm not really a soccer fan, so I don't know the details, but we'll have 2 further round games, which will each have the economic development impact of a Super Bowl, as it's been explained to me. So the need to prioritize redevelopment of downtown as we're under the international spotlight, I think is critical. And for tax credits that have already been approved by the General Assembly, already are in law, to be able to just utilize those sooner for folks who are in line, I think is a very reasonable approach. But thank you for the questions.
Chairman Dolezal?
Thank you, Leader. How much is the annual cap?
It is $30 million.
I assume the reason you're referencing a line is essentially what's happening is people apply for these. Once the 30 million's hit, they get bumped to the previous years, and that's essentially
Yes, sir.
why there's a line. And these are income tax credits. Can they be syndicated?
I do not know the answer to that.
Okay.
Yeah.
They cannot be syndicated.
No,
You said income there.
Are the income tax credits?
I believe they are income tax credits. Income tax
they
credits,
are
not ad
income
valorem.
taxes, not
Yes,
ad
sir.
valorem.
Not
Yes,
having
sir.
more, that's what I'm clear.
Yeah.
I think the question maybe that you were answering is the primary revenue is a local property tax revenue.
Yes,
which
sir.
goes
Absolutely.
to local as opposed to the state.
Yeah.
But the credit itself is an income tax credit. I would assume that it can be syndicated. Do you know for the specific project that you're talking about how much of the future year's cap it would take up?
It's, I believe that it's very reasonable considering some of the other projects that have been utilized in the past. I do not, as I stand here, I don't believe it would exceed the $30 million for a future year. But that's something I can look into. and
Okay,
get you.
thank you.
Any other questions? I will say this, when you go to develop an older building like these guys are trying to tackle, I opened a restaurant back, I guess, 20 years ago in downtown Alpharetta, and the building was built in 1905. Mm-hmm. And I thought it was going to cost me about $25,000, but then when you got into it and you found out the electrical work was, needed way more work than it did, some of the skeletons that you run into when you go to redo these buildings, I think they need the help they need to have to go ahead and do this and do it right, because some of these buildings were built in the early 1900s, and so they're going to need the tax advantages to help them rehabilitate these and really revitalize that area. And to your
Completely.
point, the World Cup is going to be like having 4 Super Bowls, from what I've been told. I'm not a soccer guy either, but the economic impact is going to be huge.
Completely agree, Mr. Chairman, and I think the success that we've seen from these being utilized in a reasonable manner elsewhere, I think has shown real dividends, both for ultimate state revenue, but also for local revenue as well, as was being discussed.
Vice Chairman again has another question.
Yes, sir.
I hate to belabor the point, but I do see, because I was reading lines 23, 24, talking about City of Atlanta, Fulton County on ad valorem taxes, and I see over the, when we're talking about the income taxes on line 10, and I guess I'm struggling with, because I've never done any redevelopment on property like this, and I'm struggling on how do we take a income tax benefit on real property that we're improving. I'm just kind of curious how, what's the tie between the income tax side of stuff versus what you're making improvements to real property and the ad valorem tax, and that's where, if you can explain that to me, I just never have dealt with this, and it's kind of new for me. So
First of all, lines 23, 24, just tying this down to a specific area.
Right.
So that it's only utilized for the intended purpose. And to answer your question, it'd be the income tax return, as I understand it, that would be filed. If the criteria is met, the credits could be utilized if all these criteria are satisfied.
what's the credit based on? Is because what I'm looking at is, okay, I'm going to go out and spend, let's say, millions of dollars on redeveloping this property. That doesn't produce me any income. And you're going to have there's an income tax. Break up here.
They sell the tax credit for cash,
Okay.
so it generates cash.
Okay. So the tax credit is for what though? What are we giving them a tax credit for?
For redeveloping a historic building. So when you take a historic building with the costs associated with that, the fact they're going to file a return, they would have the ability to claim the credit to syndicate or transfer the credit. There is the ability to sell it as well.
On the money that they've spent to redevelop the property?
The expenses that are incurred for redeveloping the property, I do believe are considered, but if the criteria is satisfied, you'd have a credit available to you up to the cap.
Maybe we can talk after the.
Senator McLaurin?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I don't know if this was said explicitly. I think part of the confusion is that the reference to ad valorem is just to define which historic district we're talking
Yes, sir.
about. That's
That's
all
right.
it is. It's not, it's literally just saying, I think you're just using Cabbagetown as your radius center point, the marker, basically.
Yes, sir. Admittedly, that was picked by legislative council,
Sure.
just to, the objective, which I've stated here, was explained, and that was the language.
It's almost like a short title or something that, yeah, okay. All right, thanks.
Any other questions? What is the will of the committee?
I'll move to pass.
Okay. I have a motion by Senator McLaurin, a second by Senator Chairman Burns. Is there any discussion, further discussion? Okay, all in favor, raise your hand. Okay, it's unanimous. Thank you, Mr. Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. My
Appreciate it.
Mulberry brother, Clint Dixon.
Oh, you got Clint
committed
Dixon, too.
To carry this.
So it's Mulberry and Cabbagetown
Yes,
together.
sir, yes.
Okay, all right.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, we're going to go on to Representative Krogh, HB 159, Georgia Housing and Finance Authority. I think it's, give us the LC number you're working off, please.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Members of the committee, it's LC 620158S.
Okay.
This is as passed out of the House. Very small change in the bill itself. If you look on lines 13 to 14, we're simply changing the aggregate amount for their mortgage revenue bonds that they can have outstanding at one time from $3 billion to $6 billion. What that does is it allows them to sell these mortgage revenue bonds, bring in the revenue, and then loan that money out as part of their mortgage origination program for first-time home buyers. They can provide low-interest loans to workforce housing buyers and things like that. They're quickly approaching that cap as house prices have increased. The number of loans that they can do has diminished, and we're trying to get ahead of that so that they are able to continue to provide these. And they're especially important now because as interest rates have risen, they're able to loan this money out at a lower rate than the typical market rate because they're capped. They can only loan at a 1.125 above what the face value of the bond is that they sell for the revenue. So good loan program. We've used it a lot. First-time home buyers, police officers, teachers, firefighters in our area have used it. And so trying to keep that program going, Mr. Chairman.
This is a department bill, correct?
It is, yes, sir.
Okay.
And we have some folks here from DCA that can speak to it
All right.
more eloquently and technically than I can if we have real technical
Well, they didn't
questions.
sign up, but does anybody from the, you want to speak, sir? Come on up and state your name and the company you're with.
Wesley Brooks, I'm the Deputy Commissioner for the Georgia Housing Finance Authority.
Okay.
Just a couple of points to add. First, this program's been around since '78. We've done about 53,000 home buyers throughout the state. To the representative's point, we sell these private activity bonds on the private market. Act as kind of a flow through to a private lender network. So this is really supporting the private market to do this business on behalf of the state, which is why Treasury allows them some tax exemption as a result of the work that they're doing. I just want to be very clear that the outstanding bond limit has no relation to the full faith and credit of the state. The state and taxpayers are not responsible at all for any of the repayment of these bonds that are outstanding.
Okay. So we're not on the hook?
Not at all.
Okay.
In fact, many other states in the southeast do not have a limit because there's no relationship to the
Okay.
taxpayers.
All right. Vice Chairman again?
Since the state's not at risk on any of this, why do we even have a limit? I talked to Christopher Nunn, and I'm looking at it, I'm like, what's in it, as far as putting a limit? Why don't we just, whatever y'all can flow through there, helping housing, that's what everybody wants to do, so why is there a limit?
I don't know the answer to that. I've asked that question myself, and I haven't been able to get a real good answer. I think there were some members in our chamber that had a concern, and I don't know if they were concerned thinking that there was some kind of an obligation on the state to this, and that number scared them off, or if they just want to have some sort of legislative control over the process, and maybe in the past that they just wanted to have legislative control over the process. But all of the Department of Community Affairs Board and the Georgia Housing and Finance Authority Board are the same members, all appointed by the governor. It's also overseen by GISFIC, which is made up of the governor, the lieutenant governor, Speaker of the House, and several other constitutional officers. So they're already overseeing it and approving how many bonds they can sell in a year. I originally was going to do I had a sub drawn up to actually remove the cap altogether, but this is what we were able to get through
$6 billion
our chamber.
gets you where you want to be?
It gets us to about, we'll probably be back next year to try to get ahead of the first year of the next
Okay.
governor's term.
Well, I'm ready whenever you are to make a motion.
We have one more question. Senator Hodges?
Regarding a limit on the amount of bonds that you're able to sell, when you pass these bonds through to an investor, do they get a tax-free rate? Well, that's one reason you might want to do this, because you're losing tax revenues.
So if I may answer that, the tax is not at the state level, it's at the federal level. And we are capped, every state is capped as to how much tax-exempt authority each state gets. So the federal government predetermines how much
So
we can do every
there's
year.
no break on state taxes?
That is
Okay.
correct.
All right, then you don't need a limit, unless the feds impose one on you.
Okay.
Motion to pass.
All right, we got a motion to pass. Got a second from Chairman Hodges. Any other discussion? All in favor, raise your hand. It's unanimous. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And we have one more bill.
Mr. Chairman, Senator Eccles is going to be carrying this.
Okay, good,
Thank
good.
you.
We'll get that. All
No,
right.
No, sir, not my namesake.
We've got
Clint.
one more. We've got Representative Gamble. Is Representative Gamble here? Yeah. Come on up and tell us about HB 475. This is another department bill, correct?
That's right. Good morning, Chairman, Committee. It's good to be with you today. I have House Bill 475 with us today, and I want to stress from the outset, this is not substantive tax policy change on the film tax credit. This is a bill that's designed to clean up, clarify, and confirm. And so if you are looking at House Bill 475, you will notice there on page 1 and leading into the top of page 2, we're deleting some terms that are antiquated as far as the film tax credit goes. Televised commercial advertisements, not all commercial advertisements are televised now. And so we're deleting that. Also, we're deleting the term laser disc. Laser discs were certainly a big deal when they came out, but that's no longer a technology that's really prevalent as it once was. We're also including or better clarifying, the agency felt like they needed the clarification on this, paid subscription-based platforms and free advertiser-supported streaming television, FAST channels. So if you've got a smart TV and you've, have Netflix or Hulu, any of those types of services, that is what a paid subscription-based platform is. And then the FAST channels are any of those channels that come with that television as well, that you can stream for free. That's adding those as well. And then we are also stating in this bill that if you are, if you grab your cell phone and video yourself and post that onto social media, that is not eligible for the film tax credit. We needed to clarify that. So, that's part of the guardrails of what we're putting in here. And then the last thing, the most substantive part of this is we're allowing the department to establish fees for processing the applications for the film tax credits. The money collected from those fees is not going to the department. It goes to the general fund, and that will be utilized for someone that's, I'm going to give an example, they want to expedite their application. That would be the type of fee. It's a reasonable fee. These are not going to be prohibitive to anyone. And then the final part of this bill is it allows a loser pay scenario. If you appeal the decision of the department on the film tax credit and you lose, you pay lawyers' fees. So that, in my opinion and the department's opinion, is a good thing that we're adding to this to, again, put guardrails around the film tax credit. So that, in essence, is what this bill does. I'm happy to answer questions. I've got Josh Stevens and Lee Thomas and several others. The film industry, we have worked collaboratively with them, and they are all in support of the changes that we're trying to make here. But I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Tell me a little bit about lines 39 and 40, the reasonable fees. I think you touched a little bit on that, but talk a little more about how's the department decide how they're going to charge reasonable fees associated with the process.
Yeah, and Mr. Chairman, if you're okay with it, I'd like to ask Josh to come up and share a little bit about how that would be structured.
Okay. Josh, welcome.
Good morning, Chairman, members of the committee. Josh Stevens, Georgia Department of Economic Development. Really, as it relates to fees, we're just asking for the ability to charge a fee, and the intent of those is really for expediting and for those that miss deadlines, applications that are going through a process. Currently, if an applicant runs into an issue, misses a deadline, or really needs an expediting of their application, there's no way to really do that in the process now. They have to start all over. So these fees would be utilized for really mitigating those issues that come up in the process. They're not really intended in any way to be prohibitive, as Leader Gamble mentioned.
Okay. All right. Any questions? Senator James? What microphone?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yes. What are you calling reasonable? Do you have a flat fee for amount? And then did you keep in mind that we were losing a lot of the film industry because of the strikes that have been going on? And many of them are struggling right now to stay here, and many have to go to another state to film, even if they're still here. So did y'all take that under consideration, and what is considered reasonable?
Sure. No, understood. And, we've looked at what other states are doing as it relates to fees, and there's really a large amount of variation between how states charge based on other circumstances. Ours would be more of a flat fee that would be very nominal. We don't have a set amount per se, but we're talking, nominal fees, that a company could just kind of go back through the process. It would not be prohibitive in any way. But we are evaluating that. We need to further study.
Mr. Chairman, can I ask?
Yes.
I, and as well as one of our former senators, Senator Mullis, actually introduced this bill. We talked about it for about 6 months before, and we worked very hard to look at other states who may have had it, New York, Hollywood, you know. We were at the bottom, and now we're number one, and I want to stay number one. So I was just, I really I want to know how much it's going to cost, or hear from somebody from the film industry who can tell me if this is something that added cost that they can take right now.
Sure. And I will defer to one of my colleagues, Lee Thomas, who's been leading our film office for a little while. But I do want to say that we do know and understand the value of the credit for the industry and the impact. I'm a former aide of Senator Mullis and know and understand. So you know. Yes, but no, I'll let Lee Thomas make a few
one
comments.
final question to you, Josh. On that loser pays, if someone goes to bring litigation before you guys, are you going to let them know that if you lose, you pay on this? I love this, to be honest with you. I wish we had this on tort reform, but we don't. But I will tell you, I love the loser pay. But will you inform them that if you lose this suit, you're going to pay attorney's costs, or do we not inform them?
I'm sure there would be some sort of disclosure
on that,
in the application.
You can go and sue us, but if you lose, you pay. Okay. Thank you. Go
Further
ahead,
comments? Okay.
I think we got a question for Lee Thomas, or want to hear from, and by the way, thank you for all you do for the film industry. You do a great job. You're the best.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Thank you for having me here today, and thank you for your question. And we know that this is a very competitive market. It has gotten more so. We're seeing a lot of work overseas and a contraction in the market. So we don't want to do anything that's going to make us less competitive. But we do feel like the ability to charge fees will actually help some projects, because at this point, if somebody misses a deadline, it's kind of an all or nothing proposal, right? If they miss a deadline, a lot of these independent films, it's an LLC that's set up, you know, people come together, they make a film, and that's the end of it. And at the end of it, there are obligations to our department to provide us with stuff, and sometimes those things fall through the cracks. But if we have the ability to charge fees rather than just take away the entire tax credit, when they spent the money, they hired the people and all that kind of stuff, we feel like that's much better remedy than taking away the whole tax credit. Also, you know, we see with a lot of the films, they are, you know, trying to put their financing together, and they do need our letter, and they sometimes need it expedited to get the letter so that they can put their financing together, or get it all, you know, get the whole package so that they have everything they need. That's part of moving forward with the process, and so that also helps them as well.
Any other questions of Ms. Thomas? Senator McLaurin, did you have a question, or? Okay, well, while I have you up here, I know this is off the subject of the bill, but I'm a huge fan of the film business. I'm probably your biggest fan in the legislature, actually.
Thank you.
Since the strike, have we seen business start to go back up and do well, since that's been?
Yes, sir. I mean, you know, having 2 strikes where there was a work stoppage, followed by the next year where there was the potential for 2 more strikes. We think coming out of the pandemic, you know, the studios made a lot of extra content that they were sitting on because they knew that the strikes were a possibility. And so they really was a contraction of the industry. But we also, you know, overseas, you know, with the exchange rates and a lot of incentives has been tough on us as well. But this year, we've really started to see a turnaround, and we have a pretty robust slate right now, so I'm happy about that.
Well, good. Well, thank you. Let us know if there's anything we can do to help you.
Thank you, sir.
Keep bringing the jobs.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
Any other questions? I know we have a question of the Senator McLaurin.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good to see you, Representative.
Good to see you.
Your bill is bringing back trauma for me, because when I was a freshman in 2019 in the State House, I had what I thought was a simple code cleanup bill, and it removed antiquated terms, including the word phonograph. And what happened was 11 Alive News went to a vinyl store and had the vinyl heads at the store rail on me for getting rid of a word that was still quite in use. They're like, what are these guys doing down at the legislature?
Right.
Have you confirmed that nobody uses laser discs?
Well, there's still
Or-
people using laser
Okay.
discs. They can continue to use laser discs, and I remember when that came out in the 90s, that was a big deal.
Yeah.
But as far as the ability to apply for the film tax credit, that will be removed from our language, and we've met with our film industry here, and they're okay with it. And if the department hasn't met with everyone, I've met with everyone, and so we've vetted that part out of it. But
Just
that's
keep a
good
lookout for
question.
11 Alive. It's
I will
just my
do
advice
that.
to you.
I will do
Okay,
that.
thank you.
Any other questions? Does anybody from the audience that did not sign up want to speak to this bill? I see some movie folks here. Anybody? Okay, no. All right, well, we're going to close the public hearing then, and I will entertain a motion.
Motion do pass.
We got a motion do pass. We got a second from Senator McLaurin. Any other discussion? All in favor, raise your right hand. Thanks. Raise your hand. All against? You got one against. Everybody else? So it's all four, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 to 1. Okay, we have nothing else on our agenda. We will meet again next Wednesday.
Chairman Brass is going to carry this.
Brass?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right, the movie man. All right, well, thank you, and our meeting is adjourned. Thank you.